good friend Sam Granville in from Knoxville, Tennessee, to join us here. Sam, let's start on the gridiron because it seems like when you want to fight with the NCAA, you take off the boxing gloves and you just strap on a pen, you lawyer up, and you sue the NCAA. The latest is Tennessee star quarterback. I was going to say former star quarterback, but he could be right back in a Vols uniform next year. Joey Aguilar, who obviously had a really strong season under y'all's head coach there in Josh Heupel, but now going to sue the NCAA, filing a lawsuit to try to maintain his eligibility. What do you make of this story and just kind of the ways that this thing has been put in the light of the bigger picture of what we're seeing with college athletics?
Yeah, at this point, it's not really much of a surprise to anybody, and like you said, just the way that things are going, and might as well every college athlete's got to have a lawyer on retainer at this point. But
Yeah.
no, Joey, I mean, we've known since the end of the season that he was going to try and fight for an additional year. We didn't know if that was an actual possibility or a long shot. And then when you start seeing these cases go into regional and state courts versus, federal courts, and that's when you're like, okay, we've seen this story. We've seen this recently. We saw this recently down in, Alabama when a basketball player decided that, he wanted to return from the G League and come play at his former school. And, okay, let's go through a local court that, may or may not have some ties to the university. And now we're seeing here with Joey, it's okay, we're going to take this to a local court and see what happens and try to get this going, because in this latest lawsuit, it says, you can see in the quotes from the public request, it's, hey, Joey's got to either figure out right now, am I preparing to play spring football with the Vols, or am I preparing to get myself ready for the NFL draft, which is in April? So he's in this tight window, and he's trying to speed things up. Sorry about that. Trying to speed things up, and right now, I think this is the best way for him to actually have a chance, is to go through this local court system, and then we'll see what happens from there. But right now, it seems like things are being pushed a little more aggressively, and I think Vol fans would welcome him back with open arms. And again, in that lawsuit, it says, yes, Joey has a roster spot if this is going to be pushed forward, and a roster spot in the tune of $2 million. So that's a nice roster spot, and probably not what he'd be making anywhere next season on any NFL team.
I mean, you take a look at, we've been talking about the whole Trinidad Chambliss situation. That one obviously filed in an Oxford court. You brought up Charles Bediaco's situation being filed over there in Tuscaloosa. This one being filed in the Knox County court. I mean, do you think his camp waited to see how some of these other lawsuits panned out before they were like, hey, I want to jump in and I want to try and get this figured out?
Yeah, I think so. And, I'm by no means am I an expert when it comes to, the rule of law, the law of the land, anything that's pertaining to, a law degree. But that is what law is all about. It's, hey, this case, this case has had this result. This case has had this result, and because that case had this result, we can now talk about, well, if that case had that result, why can't my case have that result?
Right.
And, that's, of course, in the most simple of layman terms, but I'm sure it's a lot more official when they're talking in front of a judge. But, that's basically what's happening here is we're going, hey, Diego was the first one to make this happen last year when getting those extra years of collegiate eligibility through playing with the NJCAA, and now, hey, I had that too, and Joey's already played, 6-7 seasons of college football, but it's okay, what college football?
Right.
Is it NCAA college football? Is it NJCAA college football? And so far, he's only had the four, the three official seasons in the NCAA, playing with App State and with the Vols. So when we really start getting into it, it's okay. Yeah, he's had a long college football career, but has it been a long NCAA college football career? And then when you're seeing that in the NBA and you're saying, well, this guy played for an NBA team, but now, he only played one season of college basketball. So, yeah, it's a can of worms. And right now, I think the Vol fans are like, hey, if everybody else is opening that can of worms, we want some too, because there's a big difference. I just saw an SEC podcast ranked the potential starting quarterbacks for next season in the Southeastern Conference, and they had George McIntyre as the projected starter for the Vols, and they had him a 16 out of 16. And I think if you put Joey Aguilar into that slot, he's right up there with the Arch Mannings and the Trinidad Chambliss. The guys, he led the conference in passing last year.
Right.
So I think that's a night and day difference between this Vol team and what their ceiling is. And I think everybody on Rocky Top is paying close attention to this right now. Going, all right, if it's working for everybody else, please let this one work out in our favor.
Absolutely. We'll go to basketball here in a second, but I know you said you're not a law expert. Neither am I. Do you expect to see Joey Aguilar in a Vols helmet next fall?
I would say when it comes to situations like this, you don't want to get your hopes up. And so I think a lot of Vol fans are expecting that it won't happen. And I think that's how they should be looking at it, is expect that it doesn't happen, be pleasantly surprised if it does happen.
Fair. Yeah.
I think that's kind of where I stand right now. Is I think it's a long shot. If I had to, just give you an answer, do I think it's going to happen? I think no, it's not going to happen. But a couple weeks from now, when all is ruled and we come back and talk on here and we say, hey, the Vols got Joey Aguilar as the starting quarterback for the next season, I'm all for it.
Absolutely.